You're listening to Masters Decoded podcast series. I'm your host and the chief decoder, Anis Merchant. Through this podcast, I bring in guests who are successful in a different walk of life to decode and map out their careers and journeys with the hope that we gain all our learnings. The world around us is changing exponentially, and how the impact of artificial intelligence, technology, and other socioeconomic factors have either influenced or enhanced my guests' careers. My next guest on today's episode is Feroza Engineer. Feroza is a performance coach who's driven with her lifelong mission on helping people's career by creating change that is scientific, realistic in achievement, and that eventually helps themselves. You will always hear Feroza say, everybody and anybody can coach themselves. They just need discovery and some tough love. Feroza is known in the industry as a learning leader who capitalizes on her 16 years of experience that has spanned across 130 plus organizations, agnostic of industry, not only across India but US, China, Singapore, UAE, UK, Hong Kong, Sri Lanka, and Bangladesh. Her core areas of expertise lie in CXO coaching and development, building organizational learning architecture, measurement impact through learning analytics, and neuroscience based self development. Whether in her personal or professional life, trust and reliability are important qualities that she has managed to build successfully. For Feroza, authenticity is key. Hailing from a family of engineers, becoming a fixer comes very naturally to her. And it is that spirit of unapologetically owning who she is that allows her to build meaningful relationships. Without much further ado, let's get on to an energetic conversation. Hi, Feroza. Welcome to Masters Decoded podcast series. Thanks for taking time out.
Hey, Anis. Thanks a lot, man, for having me over.
No, it's been a pleasure, and I really want to thank you. You've been really busy, I can tell that much, because I believe the last 2 weeks you've been like one after the other sessions with teams and all of that. And I know
Yes,
it's a Monday, so taking time out on a Monday is also difficult. So thank you for doing that.
my pleasure. Because I think Mondays works for me in a
Okay.
way. I start my week on a Sunday, Anis. Like,
Oh,
I
wow.
think that's maybe the first habit I've been able to nicely break. That notion that, we have that we have to start on a Monday and Monday blues. Like, it's something that doesn't work for me. So I'm like, maybe let's change that. So Sundays is start of the week and Mondays is a certain set of activities, and this just nicely fit in. So yay.
Nice. And one thing which I've also seen, which is very peculiar of you, the amount of energy you have, right? It almost feels like, you are on something which I would love to know what is that, right? Like, where do you get this
Brilliant.
energy from? Where do you get
If
this energy from?
every time, really, Anis, if every time somebody would have given me even 1 rupee for asking me this question that you just asked me, since I would have been like filthy rich by the age of 10.
Wow.
I'm telling you, just this question, this
Wow.
only question. Um, it has taken me years to understand this, but
Okay.
I'm glad that I've reached a place and I've gone through like these absurd number of experiences where whether it is self-doubt, whether it is being shy. I know it's very difficult for people to believe that I could have been an extremely shy kid. And
No
yeah,
way.
people don't. Yeah.
Okay.
But I can make you talk to mom, or I can make maybe show you like a report card where it's written that I need to mingle with other children.
Okay.
you know so I know for a fact that these are learned behaviors. Like, I know for a
Mm-hmm.
fact that energy is something that you have, who you are. Like,
Mm.
even quantum physics says that you cannot create energy or you cannot trap energy. No, you can
Yeah.
only exchange energy.
Hmm.
So after a point now I know things that energize me, and I know the activities in a day that don't.
Okay.
So maybe sometimes you're just able to figure that out and um, maybe modify your day accordingly, is what I would
Okay.
say practically.
And we'll double click on this because I definitely need that, because coming in before this podcast, I've had an interesting day. So I would love to hear from
Mhm.
an expert. And I've seen you doing that. I think every interaction has been highly energized. So I really look forward. Okay, is Feroza messaging and is Feroza sending a message? So I think that's been great. But being
Awesome.
an introvert, being an
Hmm.
introvert, I would say,
Hmm.
starting a career in HR,
Hmm. Hmm.
how,
Hmm.
meaning, I've never seen an HR person being an introvert. There is no
Hmm.
book which says that,
Hmm.
because HR as an organization has to be out there, right? Working with
Hmm.
people, working with team. How did
Hmm.
that career start? And you were a teaching assistant in Jai Hind College also.
Right.
Being a
Right.
teaching assistant,
Right.
you can't, be under the shadows of your professor or anything of that sort. So
Yeah.
how did you break through that
Yeah.
being an introvert and getting your career started in HR?
Yeah. So, maybe Anis, maybe before we jump into that, like I just want to clarify that no, I'm not an introvert. I am a true
Okay.
blue extrovert still. And people
Okay.
have this notion that um, if you are sometimes anxious about something, which means you can't be confident. No, you can.
Hmm.
People usually have that notion that, you have only one type of energy. The thing is, we don't know how to use it. Or the thing is, we don't know how to maybe channelize it in the right direction, because it's only
Very
that
interesting.
much that you have during the day
Yes.
and even during the night. So it's, I mean, as a person and as an energetic person also, and as someone who understands introversion, extroversion, um like I just want to say that that is different.
Okay.
That may not, like, even the more, like, I know introverts, my either my family members or my some of my bestest friends. They're introverted, but they have lots of energy.
Yeah.
So there is no correlation of that.
Okay. Very interesting.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So
um,
how did the
yeah,
career in HR start?
sure, sure. I always, I hail from a family of engineers. Everyone in the household, dad, brother, uncle, everyone's an engineer. And that was also maybe what was expected out of me, but sadly that didn't happen. I had
Okay.
other plans. I wanted to do psychology, and just wanted to study human sciences. So I studied psych, sociology, anthropology at Xavier's. Then went ahead and picked psychology through and through. And then while I was studying, while I was doing like these part-time gigs, I was like, why don't I also teach?
Okay.
So at this lovely 500 rupee stipend, it was so lovely. Like, the value of things, or that's why sometimes I feel, if you're really, really sincere, you are not going to have a hard time being maybe optimally productive. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? So sometimes
Yep.
that's what I tell, especially when I'm dealing with young adults. I'm like, I wish we could get sincerity back in fashion, or
Hmm.
I wish we could get sincerity back in focus.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
like I feel, because that also adds to your day. If if you know sometimes deep down that why you are doing this,
Yeah.
the purpose or the aim, you are automatically sincere towards that task, and you suddenly get lots of energy. Like, sometimes have you not been in situations where you're really passionate about something? You are automatically sometimes sincere towards it. So why don't we, as leaders, parents, confidants, advisors, coaches, right? Anybody who's in a helping position, um, I sincerely feel that this whole skill of sincerity needs a comeback. Um,
You should have a slogan of like you should build your own T-shirt or an apparel brand with amazing slogans, right? This sincerity should be back, or I am sincere. And I've seen some other ones. Tinder your thoughts, right? Like that's an interesting one. Like if I think about it, why
yeah,
not left swipe and right swipe your thoughts, right? I think that's such an
yeah,
amazing thing. And so you almost have you thought about building your own brand of slogans which you've come up with? These are interesting ones
Yeah.
which you're talking about.
So I have a brand strategist and a designer whom I work with. She does all my collaterals, all my marketing efforts, and she's really different, and she adds that. So a lot of credit goes to her as well in terms of really making the brand come, alive.
Okay.
So Tinder Your Thoughts was, when I really started off on my own, I had a completely different plan, which thanks to COVID, I was gonna be out of the country, finishing a few courses, traveling, and I had like this whole eight country, eight city plan, and my refunds
Wow.
just came. My refunds just came a few days ago, and so I had some other plans, and then I was like, whoa. So
Hmm.
one of my mentors, Madhav, like he's the kindest, sweetest person. Um, he's like, why don't you create a class
Hmm.
where whatever you are using in your one-on-one coaching conversations, which is clearly helping people maybe change a habit, change a behavior, change an emotional state, or change a fixed mindset, any of these, and these are the hardcore problems, or
Yeah.
this is where the rubber meets the road, like, if I
Grown
have
up
to be open
problems.
and yeah. um, I'm like, yeah, maybe why not. So
Hmm.
one of the techniques is where I feel that during the day the human mind goes through, I mean, absurd, right, absurd number of thoughts. Like, oh, I don't think there is, like, I've read studies which says 40,000 a day. I've read
Yeah.
studies that says 5 lakhs a day. I've read studies, I'm like, kitna hai?
Right.
So long story that it is, we think a lot,
Yeah.
right? And of course there is heuristics playing up, there is bias, there is conditioning,
Situations.
there is like
Yeah.
situation, there's environment, there is
Yeah.
like everything playing. So I'm like, sometimes I feel, how when we look at it, how when we look at a temple, or how when we passing by we do these symbols, right?
Yeah.
Right, like sometimes I feel they are not rooted in any science, any logic, and nothing. But then I go back, I'm like, no, they are rooted in neuroscience. Like that entire symbol thing is creating a belief for you of what, whether it is good luck, or whether it is, bless
A
me,
blessing.
or
Yeah.
just take care of me, like that belief, right?
Yeah.
And belief is what the wiring is finally happening with.
Hmm.
So I'm like, you have millions of thoughts coming in the day. Sometimes why don't we just sit and go like, okay, like stop, like get out. Like just Tinder it, or just do this to your thought. Just do this. And I have done that. I have done that with people. We've gamified the whole thing. And I'm like, sometimes it's just to address the thought, say thanks, like just go FO if it has to. Or if that thought is valuable, let it stay, go on a date. Wouldn't you? Why would you go on a date with somebody? Because you want to get to know them,
Yes.
for whatever reason. The primary reason to go on a date, primary, that's what I'm saying, right? For whatever reason.
Yeah.
Same way. The primary reason to go on a date with your thought is maybe you get to know your thought a little bit. Like, is it adding some value? Keep it. If it's not, like just thanks, swipe
Yeah.
it off.
Yeah. So
But
let's swipe.
nobody wants to do this. Yes, but Anish, that's the thing. It's difficult. It's like, ha 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 ha. What do you think? You want me to sit and do this? I'm like, yeah, that let's do this.
Yes.
And then you see how productive or unproductive you have been the whole day, in terms of just narrowing down maybe what needs to get done. Because if that is your goal, if that's not your goal, then maybe you and I will have a different conversation. So it's very, I would say, it's the technique is related to the goal. Because
Hmm.
as a performance coach, like, I'm not going to waste time, like, just ranting and talking about things, versus like from coaching conversation to the next coaching conversation, there's like some homework, there's a reflective exercise, or there's something like you're not just going to sit idle and assume that coaching is a spectator sport. Like you're
Yes,
just gonna
you can't.
passively, you're just gonna passively sit, and coaching is going to like miraculously like work on you like some, I don't know. No, it's not
Yeah.
gonna happen.
Yeah. No, I've been through a coaching exercise and I can tell you that, and I've had a coach, and I know it's definitely not. You can't, as a coachee, I can testify that you can't just sit idle, twiddle your fingers, and believe the coach is going to wave a magic wand and something is going to happen, and you're a new human being after it. Definitely not. And I've seen people, they're the same after the coaching also, right? Because they chose not to indulge, I would say,
Hmm,
into the process,
hmm,
because you didn't choose to go on a date itself, even through that coaching process. So talking
hmm,
about the coaching process, how do you make people go on a date on that entire exercise? Because it's difficult.
hmm,
It's,
hmm.
you know
Yeah,
they have those thoughts, those millions of thoughts in their mind, right?
right,
why
right.
why my company chose me? Did my company chose me because they want to fire me? Is this a route to, you know understand
Yeah.
my weakness, or my weakness would get exposed? There are so many thoughts. Why me?
Yeah.
Why not that person? How do you make them comfortable? I'm sure with your
Hmm,
energy everybody's comfortable, but you know
hmm,
of-
hmm.
you know to keep motivated throughout the process, that's a difficult one. So how do you do that?
So, and I think more than this being an important question, I think Anish, this is such a relevant question currently. And the reason I stress on relevancy of entering a coaching conversation is not just from a point of view of personal willingness, but maybe if it's come from HR, if it's come
Hmm.
from your line manager, or if it's come from your business manager, then there are several stakeholders to it. So first, I have conversations leading up to stakeholders, helping understand what's going on, what's not, how do we design this journey,
Hmm.
what could be some end outcomes. Because as a performance coach, yes, I'm not going to counsel the individual or psychotherapy. That's why coaching and counseling and
Two
psychotherapy are
different
very
things.
different. Mentoring is also different. Versus as a performance coach, we will clearly figure out what the problem area is, what are some possible outcomes, and let's see how we are going to get there by doing stuff. So not just
Blah 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 blah.
yeah, ha, 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 and going around town and spaciousness and what not. No, no, no. I mean, we'll do that, but we are going to see what's working, what's not working, because these are skills. If it was
Hmm.
something really cognitive, it was some really hardcore patterns, which of course we need to recognize. Maybe. Maybe then the recommendation would be different. So entirely depends on what problems we are trying to solve. Um, More often than not, I think in the first two conversations, you kind of figure out whether you are gelling with the coach on and the coachee
Yep.
are in it,
Yes.
you know.
They are the best
And
buddies or not.
I also feel that it's not about best buddies. Like I established that you may not like me, and
Okay.
you do not need to like me,
Okay.
because your success is not dependent on your likability of me, is
Hmm.
what I urge clients or coaches to kind of keep in mind, that if you really want to look at some hardcore change behavior which you have not done for the last 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, 10 years, right? That is massive amounts. And you also expect miracles that will change in in 10 sessions with me. So you're starting on, oh my God, I have so much to work on, but you better solve it for me in 10 sessions. So, what is your skin in the game? How
Hmm.
much are you going to work with me? So it's not necessarily that this is going to be like those best 10 sessions of your life and you're going to love yourself. No, you're going to feel uncomfortable because there are things we are going to change. You are going to maybe not cry, maybe react, not overreact, maybe shut down, maybe not shut down. You might go through an array of emotions because that is you. That is
Hmm.
who you are, and you are free to do that. But we will kind of honor and maybe hone the process. which the client figures out in the second or the third session, because it's like a process. There are certain things we do at the beginning of the session, there are certain things we talk about, there are certain activities. You're maintaining a journal, I'm maintaining a journal. So literally it's like, okay, this is serious, stuff like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. So
It's yeah, the importance of people feeling, it's
mm,
almost like you have to uncover their mask during that session, especially during the
mm,
coaching session, because people wear masks. All of us wear a mask every day,
mm,
and coaching allows you to uncover that. And I've seen my own mask coming out. I will openly say it. Uh,
mm,
I love Marvel, and the analogy I have the Dr. Banner and I have the Mr. Hulk. I have both of them
mm, mm,
in me. Okay, if
mm,
I'm angry, then the Hulk does come out, and if I'm
mm,
not angry, Dr. Banner is there. So that's
mm,
part of it. And the idea was, how do you get the best of both and not take the worst of both as part of the
mm,
process. So that was my coaching experience. But
mm.
talking about, and something which you spoke of, and I want to double click on it, is you had plans pre-COVID. It all went out of the window. so so
Jeez.
how did it impact you personally, right? Because I'm sure the first 2 months would be like tearing your hair off.
Pragmatist, or like someone who goes like, no, I am extremely rational. No, I can believe in something before I have evidence for it,
Hmm,
because I
interesting.
know I know that's not how belief works, and it's high time
Yeah.
people understand that there is gut. There are a lot of ambiguous things which which are going to be thrown at you, and
Hmm,
how are you going to really react to those? So to your question, like when that happened, like boom, COVID, like this cancellation, this course, this flight, this dum, like in literally in 4 days, everything was cancelled in a span of 4 days,
yes,
and we
I
were as a family going to be together after a very long time in the same house. Like all of us, we were really looking forward to it. Someone's coming from here, someone's coming from there, and I'm like, damn. But I'm like, what better opportunity? I'm going to sit
yeah.
at home. There is going to be no travel. And I get to do what I love, which is teach and
Hmm,
also create stuff, like deconstructing stuff,
yeah.
because today's adult does not today's adult and today's, especially today's young learner, doesn't need enough gyan and biz and bull around the knowing of things. No, we have enough of that versus
Enough
like
of
the
Google.
know-how.
Yes.
Yeah, versus really the know-how. And the
Yeah.
know-how is like the difficult stuff. It is
Hmm,
like, please ask me. Like, I will give you a list of bad habits I have worked on. Like, and I will take you through the whole process. Or please ask me. Like, I have been asked most humiliating questions growing up, like, how have I dealt with it? Or, so I'm not giving you any gyan from any book or some PPT. Like, first of all, I can't remember quotes.
Yeah.
I can't remember dialogues to save
High
my
five.
life.
High five on the head.
Yeah, like I'm sorry, but I can't. So like when trainers start quoting these quotes after quote, shairi after shairi, song after, I'm like, I, I'm like, but I can share an example. Like this happened to me, or will this example work, or the story work, or like the real deal? None of the, there was an owl and a crow and a a
And a
dog
parrot.
and and they like no, none of that. But yes, this has happened to me, or this has happened to this one, or like I've always struggled as a child, thinking that if I'm gay, will there be something wrong with me? I was
Mm.
grown up with that notion, so you always kind of dumb down or go down on your interpretation of things, because you never know, you never understand that are people on the same page with you, like
Yeah.
are they understanding what you're saying? uh,
Yeah.
so that's why sometimes
So how
it's
did you
great.
engineer? How did you engineer yourself to, overcome all of these things and, get out there and do what you're doing today? Because it's fantastic. Because some of the things, feedback, and knowing how busy you are, how's that?
Yeah.
How did you engineer?
I've been wanting to do this for the longest time, and people who worked with me kind of knew that. Or my clients would always be like, when are you gonna start on your own? Definitely, I'm gonna like come support you, or and that's why I've had client relationships really over time, and I've been on both sides of the business. I've worked in the L&D function of a corporate house. I've worked on the consulting side, on the content side. So I'm like, great. And then I have even led a practice at Jombay. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, this is excellent. Like either the universe is preparing me for this, or maybe like for the longest time I've had this, that I never want to sit back and go like, okay, how will I measure my life? Is it like that silly, I'm sorry, but like that ridiculous figure that some people have? I will need to have that X amount in
X
my
amount of.
bank, or I don't know. I've never operated on that. So like one of the principles has always been like, okay, how many people have I helped?
Hmm.
I'm not saying again that number, but was I able to solve this problem, human problem? Or was I able to even understand this? Forget solve it. Right? Sometimes we don't have to solve for everything. We have to just make a very sincere effort and understand it. That
Okay.
itself I feel should be enough for all of us as a species sometimes, that it's not about solving stuff every time. Like there have been so many clients I have said that, hey, you know what, sorry, but maybe I don't have the energy to help you solve for this problem right now.
Hmm.
Like I want to be very true, because I'm like, listen, because I'm like, sincerely, because I'm busy to 1 2 3, and I want to be there fully to help you solve for this concern. So if you can wait till October 14th, if you can wait till October 26th, so I've even had that, because I'm like, it's so important to first be true to yourself.
Yeah.
And that itself was like a mindset shift, that and again, people who know me like again since childhood, like I'm not going to mince words. So
Sure.
that's and that's helped me, or maybe that's sometimes not helped me.
Hmm.
But it has at least taught me a lesson that, okay, what should be the boundary?
Hmm. So in this, about this boundary and these problems,
Hmm.
what are the top three problems you're working on for the last 6 months now?
Whoa, man. Okay. So
I know you have a coachee agreement, and we will not get into the specifics,
no,
but
no,
what
no,
are the
no, no.
top three problems which you're
Uh,
working on?
so I think the best way to really disclose any kind of credibility, and I genuinely, and I genuinely, when I teach this, whether to teachers or to other coaches, is like this is again, this is my belief, and it's not coming from it's not coming from being rooted in any um ru- it's not rooted in any theory, or this is my
Hmm.
belief. That's what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say, that I want to be that kind of coach or that kind of facilitator that is authentic. So I will solve for problems that I have actually solved for,
Okay.
or I have personally gone through. So please do not expect me to do a class for you on finance for non-finance. Like,
Hmm.
I know I have done it thrice in my entire career, but that was for some whatever. But that is how against I am of teaching or doing, or even so when clients also come, sometimes it'll be any random topic. Can you talk about risk management? Like,
Okay.
no. So
Okay.
I train risk taking. So, okay, risk
Okay.
management, not in detail. No, I don't know. So
Hmm.
I'm not going to take that class. Or can you please talk? Like stuff like that. So things that either I have not done in real life, or I have not led teams that have done it, or I have not handled the business side of it, or maybe I have not had the experience or the privilege of having learned from so many. Because with every coaching conversation and or every training, like, I have this book that I maintain, like, what did I learn, or
Hmm.
like, what is going on, like, what went wrong today, or like I have this exhaustive books, and they are nicely, they're like nicely labeled, that what are the rants in this notebook, or what does blue stand for, yellow stand for. And I think that helps, just being very
Okay.
clear about what worked, maybe what didn't work.
You just started about 6 months in February being on your own.
Hmm.
You're a young entrepreneur in that way. You've not even completed your anniversary of being an entrepreneur. How's that
Feel
experience
very
been?
nice.
Meaning, have you learned? Meaning, I'm sure you've learned a lot. I can tell I have learned a lot. Sometimes being on my own, but you were on a corporate. People would get you a tea. People would get your paperwork done. People would ensure that you get salary slips. You don't have to worry about your team's salary slips, right? You don't have to worry about your bank accounts or paying somebody. How's that experience been for you in the last 6 months?
I've had breakdowns also. So it's like I like to feel my whole emotion. So there have been times where I'm like, I can't take that, and I've just had a I've just had a breakdown, and I'm like, I really can't do this anymore. Like, I cannot do this. 3 weeks at a stretch, 4 weeks at a stretch, no break in between. No, no, no. And then there have been such beautiful life lessons that you can't always stick to a plan. There is never going to be a plan. And as a person also, I'm not this person which in interviews, if people would ask me like, and that's why imagine I have lost certain jobs because in the interview process, because I was asked, where do you see yourself in 10 years from now? What do you think you would be doing? Okay. And
Okay.
I was applying for the role. I was applying for the role at a junior level of a consultant in a very reputed consulting organization, which, how when those young sparkle in your eyes, you want to join.
Yeah.
So I have gotten an interview, I have gone for them, and I'm like, excellent. And there, the head of um, a particular division of consulting, that head, she took my interview and she's like, okay, Feroza, 10 years from now, what do you see yourself as?
Hmm.
I'm like, okay. I said, 10 years from now, I said, one thing guarantee. I said, I see myself as being happy. She's like, she's like, what kind, and she's like, what kind of an answer is that? I'm like, I'm giving you a guarantee that I'm just whatever I'm doing. I said, I don't know. But I will give you a guarantee that I will be fully into it, and I'll be like, this is the best thing of my life. So, so that has stayed with me through and through. Whichever job I have done, whatever I've done, like, I've had a great time. I don't know about you. I don't know about my boss. I don't know about my team. No, no, I don't mean that. I don't
No,
mean
no,
that.
but if you're not happy, how would people around you would be happy? And I think that was a very interesting question, answer to the question, right? And I don't think so. People should kill that question in the interviews going forward, because if meaning today, if somebody, you those classic 2020 plans, 2023 plans have all been out of the window right now because of this. We are laughing on this pandemic, but it
Yeah.
this pandemic has given us a reality check. I think
mm,
you know, the in Hindi they say the fugga which we had around us, right? That this is what we are
mm,
going to achieve is all out of the window. It's been, somebody sat with a pin and started blowing your balloons off. Like,
mm.
come to a reality check. You're human before anything else. Right. So
Yes.
I think that's a beautiful answer which you gave. I don't know. I would have hired somebody who answers
Yeah,
that.
but it didn't get me the job, Anis. But I'm telling you, I've understood that that is the most important thing. So that's it. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's rewind a lot back. You spoke about
Mm,
your childhood, right? There were a lot of thoughts in your mind.
mm,
One was that, if I'm going to be this or I'm going to be a gay, how are people going to perceive
mm.
that? When you look back, how's that shaped you where you are today? If you're
Mm.
fine with answering and going a little bit back in the history.
Sure, sure. Again, here, I never miss out on an opportunity to educate people because I really feel I wish people would do that a little more often.
Hmm.
I think that's the most basic form of awareness, that if you know something and if you feel in that conversation or in that context, you
Hmm.
feel that information can add value, you
Yes.
feel that information can add to the context or add to the sensibility of that room or group or conversation. Like maybe I come from that school of thought or that upbringing that doesn't matter, share or open. So
Yeah.
maybe first things first, like it's not a choice that you are making. Like
Yes.
you're born with this,
Yeah.
and that's the first thing I would maybe appreciate or even help people understand, that when you're dealing, it's not, and it should be normal. Like it should, because
Hmm.
it is normal.
Yeah.
Your sexual orientation has got nothing to do with your IQ, like,
Yeah.
or even your EQ. Like that's it. So it's not shaped me in any way that could have maybe made maybe such a big difference in terms of my skills.
Yeah.
Though in a lot of ways it has taught me a lot of courage.
Hmm.
Or like my dad says, you're maybe very bindas.
Hmm.
Like my father was, because sometimes when I've asked him, like, what was your first impression of me, or what would you say you liked? Like I've asked this to my folks, literally like a trainer. So they're like, yeah, you were very bindas, but you were never like that. So I don't know when that flip happened or when that switch happened or what, but um, till date I still get anxious, still get nervous. Like I think people need to understand emotions and not go like,
Yes.
Acha, how can you be this and how can you be that? No, you can be both. Like
Yeah.
you just need to understand how to kind of manage that
Yeah.
in that situation, and not just manage it for yourself, but also the others around you.
Agreed.
There is such a beautiful, I mean, it's not a quote, but it's like a thought process by Aristotle, that he says that it is the easiest to be angry,
Hmm.
but it is one of the most difficult things to be
To be happy.
angry at the right person at the right time in the right manner for the right reasons for the right purpose.
Hmm.
He says that is difficult, and that's so true.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
agree.
like saying we are never taught how to be assertive, but then we will be given feedback for it later in office. We are never taught to be empathetic, but then our performance reviews as leaders will be judged on it. We are never taught in childhood to focus or to concentrate. We will just concentrate.
Yeah.
Why are you not focusing? What is going on with you? Why are you not, like, we're just like doing that, but we are never taught these skills. But sadly, when you enter like leading positions, leadership positions, and in any form, not just corporate, like sports, art, industry, entrepreneur, like any field, I think these skills are just not
Thought only.
focused on.
Yeah.
Forget it. And my most favorite thing, and I keep ranting about it, I keep talking about it in workshops, that I first of all don't know why they are called soft skills.
Yeah. The
There,
hardest
there
skills.
is not, there is nothing soft about them, man.
They're
There
the
is
hardest skills.
nothing soft. People don't change. For years, people don't change. How is that soft? That's the hardest.
It is the hardest skills. Yes, you're right. The soft skills are actually technology skills, which is hard skills, right? Which people say. I mean, that's my perspective.
So I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
Oof.
Very, very impressive from a beginning of that to where you are now. You know, talking
Yeah.
about leadership, and you said
Mm,
leadership. Uh,
mm,
what's your perspective? You've led a function in Jumbe, right?
mm, mm,
So, now looking back, are there
mm.
things which you would change the way you operated or the way you did things, or was it the same thing?
No, I think no, that's the beauty. I think just being open to the fact of what are you experiencing? Like I really I think there is some quote, of course, like I said, I don't remember quotes, but there is some quote by Richard Branson that, so, something talks about that somebody gives you a difficult task or a difficult opportunity, just say
Say yes.
yes and
Yes.
then learn how to do it.
Yeah.
My entire life, I think, is that. Like, do you want to do this?
Same.
I'm like, oh, this sounds interesting. I have never done it. Like, I will learn. Are you okay? Like, yes, chalo. I'm like, excellent. Or or every time I've even joined organizations, like my leader would be the first project is okay. This is something you have not done before, but are you open to that? I'm like, yes. I'm not sure. Like, I'll first like be a little skeptical in terms of okay, let me figure out what I need, Evo. But
Done.
and I really feel these days, because of our instant dopamine fixes, thanks to our gadgets,
Yeah.
like everything is so instinct and so instant, like both, right?
Hmm.
It's become glued now that we are also expecting, behavioral change. We are also expecting leadership change, like should happen like just automatically. No,
No, it doesn't.
this requires a different type of leadership. This requires a different type of understanding. This is a different environment. You and I have never been in this.
Yeah.
Never. Nobody has practiced for it, or nobody, like, speak to, if you want, go speak to some IAS officers, ask them, Indian IAS curriculum, is pandemic even in the curriculum?
Yeah, I'm sure it is not.
Please go ask them. Like, I'm
Yeah.
saying this from having worked with someone recently. So it's very difficult, and we are always assuming people's capabilities,
Hmm.
but not understanding their intent of what they're doing on a daily basis. Because earlier it would be so easy, I would just come across the cubicle, hey Anis, what was that mail, man? Like, what is wrong with you, man? Like, I would just want to or I would just want to get you in a conference room, or let's go down, or water cooler, or sutta chai conversations, or whatever is your organization's culture, whatever
Yep.
kind of precedes that. But that's not happening. So there is so much focus on this email baji. Khelo India Khelo is what I joke. We're just like CCBCC. Pick up the phone
Yeah.
and talk.
Yeah.
Like, we'll have to put in a little more effort. I mean, that's how again I'm coming back to energy. That in a day, how many things you're going to do. So I'm always telling leaders these days, just don't go psychotic about the number of things on your list. Please, like, just
Chill.
versus quality time.
Hmm. Yeah, that's so important in this pandemic. There's so much being thrown at you. Getting a checklist done is like a task, and it's depressing people. Oh, I'm not getting things done, and I'm working so hard. Looking at your career, and you spoke a little bit about technology right now. Technology is definitely helping you in this age to reach out to
Yeah,
people and get a lot of trainings and teaching done.
yeah,
But
yeah.
technology is also disrupting a lot of L&D thought process, because today we spoke a little bit about Googles of the world, and they
Mm,
you know
mm,
people are naturally using technology to get an answer before they come and ask somebody. you know
mm,
at least
mm,
the era we have grown, we always looked up to somebody to ask an answer, because we
mm,
didn't have resources which were disposable. But today
mm.
there are many resources, and especially technology has made a lot of these resources disposable. How do you do you see technology adding value? Does it come in your way many times? What do you think?
Um, I believe technology is an enabler,
Okay.
and I think it'll be that way.
Hmm.
S- Um, as human beings, we need to be cognizant of the fact that we need to be in the driver's seat
Yeah.
with technology. So when people come around and tell me that technology sucks, it's made me so distracted, ping ting, or my whole life has been taken over by technology, or things like oh my god, I'm so over app
Overact.
app. I'm
Yeah.
like, awesome, I'm gonna use this. Like, I have wonderful clients. Like, I'm like, okay. Or I feel again, I feel that is garbage. Sorry. I really feel we can't blame technology. We can't keep blaming everything around us. It's the brain can't distinguish between a good habit and a bad habit. The brain's like, Feroza, you are getting distracted with every ping, every ting, every ching ching in the last 1 hour at least 12 times. So you are doing something 12 times in your conscious mind. You
Yeah.
clearly love that thing, dude. So great, go ahead, get distracted. So that whole wiring has formed without us even realizing. Like,
Yeah.
it's not even happened. Now imagine this. And now to your question about L&D and impact and business. Now imagine if we have not understood how to meaningfully and mindfully use technology, then of course there will be Zoom fatigue.
Hmm.
Of course people will be like, listen, I'm not going to sit through a bloody 8 hours of classroom because this classroom is staring into a Zoom, not
Yeah.
happening. So I'm like, great, it's not gonna happen, not at all. So in my workshops, in 3 hours, like 3 hours are broken down with a break. There is song and dance. There are rewards. There is awards. There are some other digital tools apart from Zoom,
Nice.
and there are some surprise elements because the learner needs to be engaged, like
Hmm.
because it's all about. And that's why right now I really appreciate L&D organizations who are focusing more, not on just learning and content curation and content creation. I mean, I know these are important aspects. I know they are required. I know you need to have skilled people who do content management or who do content creation and management. I
Yeah.
get that. Or let's say, you will also require currently very good learning technologists,
Hmm.
people who not just understand learning platforms and service platforms and how the entire integration happens with business, so that learning becomes a business driver and not some support function sitting somewhere on a dashboard. Even if you have these things taken care of, the current environment really requires an experienced person who understands learner experience. So how do you want the learner to learn?
Hmm.
That entire science, that entire ball game is very different now because the modern learner learns very differently.
Yeah.
They need to be coached in a very different manner. So some of
Yeah.
my PPTs, have memes, they have GIFs, they have sarcasm,
Nice.
they have real tongue-in-cheek humor for the modern learner. Only then they open up, or
Yeah.
that's when they kind of so I would say L&D function technology is lovely enabler for us business wise as well, but let's focus a little more on the learning experience. Like, what are the learning touch points for the learner? Is it just this classroom? What else in
Okay.
his overall environment?
Sure.
Because nobody is looking at learning the way you and I maybe looked at it growing up.
Yeah. Yeah. So talking about these moments, and I'm sure you've had some amazing moments in your experience in the last 6 months. I'm sure you've got these quirky ones, right? Like, okay, holy shit, where did this come from? So,
Yeah.
you have anyone which you would want to share?
So I actually shared it on LinkedIn, and I keep doing this regularly. There was this smart Alec, and you must you must check in with my clients, or you must look on LinkedIn. That I like to have a engaged audience. So
Yeah.
I try my best to engage people right at the beginning. Either we'll do some activity, or there'll be a joke, or there is going to be something that will get you into the groove or into the, throes of things right in the beginning in the conversation with me. And this one person right from the beginning, um, just could not get on the same page that how are we correlating listening
Hmm.
and courage.
Oh.
Like just not on board. So first pinged me privately on Zoom,
Hmm.
then asked a question also, while the natural facilitation, like it's, everyone's talking, like in my workshops, like there is not one person who will be like, acha aaj maine baat nahi kiya. No. There will be something that will make you do that. um and kept raising it as a concern. Okay. In fact, I didn't even have to do much, because that's how group work happens. People start responding for you. So people started explaining it to him as well, that okay, listening and listening courageously, you don't have to don't have to butt in, you don't have to stop the person, you have to be respectful. So he kept cutting them also. Him like, that is being respectful, that has got nothing to do with courage. I am asking Firoza, what has listening to do with courage? So Firoza, why don't you then tell us practically, practically how do you want us to
Practically.
demonstrate? Ha, engineer, no, of course. I've grown up with them, so I know all these sentence prefix and suffix. I have a list. I can take you through the goddamn list. When they will say probably, whatever, that's another conversation. Then
Share that list. I think you should publish that book.
it'll be like, okay, he's like, okay, you have to tell us, how do I demonstrate courage while listening? Practically, you have to tell us. So of course, my first initial reaction was, he did this in the beginning also. Like you can identify,
Yeah.
right? You can identify intent. I'm
Yeah.
very good with that. Like I don't need to. I will identify intent, and I don't need to, double check, triple check. So I was like, okay. I'm like, okay, X, Y, Z. That maybe what I'm about to tell you next, you may not think it's practical, but it is the most practical thing you can do in a conversation when you're trying to understand what is listening courageously. Listening courageously requires us to
Hmm.
wait, wait in the conversation, wait for the other person's wisdom, wait with silence. I'm like, XYZ, you think we can do that? Whole thing was like that still silence for 10 seconds. Nobody said anything. Then everybody chimed in. Yeah, Firoza, we've understood. Listening is does, So, like, sometimes I feel like people need to be open to different forms of learning.
Yeah.
You can't always assume that, no, I will only learn like this. No, it goes true for all of us.
Yes.
For the longest time I would tell myself that I am never going to learn by watching videos. No, I am more of hands on. I will talk to the person, I will go shadow them, I will mimic them, I will do timing and action, I will do all of that. But I'm like, no, I want to learn through videos. How can I gamify it? So you have to kind of figure this out for yourself. So learning should not be looked at as some solution
Yep.
or some reward. Awesome. It should be a way of life.
Hmm. That's such well said. Learning should be the way of life. Because today the problems are that people are trying to unlearn and relearn. They're finding it very difficult because they have not adopted learning as a way of life. They have taken it as a certificate, as an award, which they will get, and that
I'll
keeps
tell you.
them.
I'll tell you one more, Anis. One example. This happened
Sure, sure.
yesterday. Growth mindset workshop, and I sincerely feel like I feel I've really worked very hard on certain
Super.
things in my life, and still been like, oh my god, like Whether it is my final exams were not written by me, they were written by a writer. So I had some focal dystonia. Okay, maybe I overcame that. I'm like, "Acha, excellent. Was born with two bones, extra bones in my rib cage."
Oh wow.
So they would like, I mean, I can't, like, I can go on and on, like, I can tell you, like, so I feel that this whole growth mindset thing, na, there are a few things you need to do, just few things, and do them really well and not give up. That is all.
Mhm.
Like, that is all it is. It is nothing. So this one person at the beginning of the class of Feroza, if you had to pick one thing, just one thing, if you had to say that, what should we use to sustain a growth mindset? What should be that thought? I said it should be your purpose. Why? Why are you changing this? So that reason, that reason that does not let you sleep at night, that reason you get when you are sitting in the bathroom, you still think about it. The reason when you get when you cry or when you're extremely happy. I said that reason. Again, in the middle of the workshop, we did a poll, and in the poll, he asked the same question, that, Feroza, what if there are unforeseen circumstances, and if I've tried working on this habit too, and some example he used, and some unforeseen circumstances, and I have to let go, what are the things that will help me bring back my growth mindset? Said, again, I'm again telling you, there are 100 other things, but if you still ask me one thing, I will still say, what is your
Purpose.
why? Are you clear? Your purpose, why you are doing this, whether against obstacles, whether against change of plans, whether against ambiguity, you don't know what is going to. What is your why? At the end of the session, also asked the same question. My entire joke or my point around this is, you are not even open to unlearning.
Yes.
If you are not open to unlearning, what guarantees are you asking from the trainer? What
Mm.
guarantees are you asking from the coach? But you are not trying anything. So it amazes me as a performance coach that you want to change your entire world without making an iota of change internally.
Mm.
कैसे होगा? You can't expect your like, I feel scientifically not possible, logically not. Like, I'm like, what to do?
Yeah, like if you have a shut door, you're not going to allow anybody to enter in, and you say nobody comes to my house. It's that same analogy. All right. So on that note, Feroza, I think you've graciously spent over an hour on this conversation today. If one thought which you would love to share based on your learning and your career with my listeners, what would that be?
This is
I asked
something
that
I learned.
one thing I
Yeah,
asked you as
one
a
thing.
sarcasm.
Yeah, one thing. This is something I learned a couple of years ago, and it has stayed with me. And my mentor advised this. He said, Firoza, don't take too long to say yes to something, and don't instantly say no to something.
Hmm, very profound.
And I've till date, when I've faced a dilemma or I've faced some internal bottleneck, or we all have, various fixed mindset points during the day. Should I do
Mhm.
this? Should I not do this? Should I get up on time? Should I once again, give her this feedback? Like, there are so many decisions we need to make where we need to pivot. So this little thing has always stayed with me, that am I maybe sometimes just overthinking stuff? And also, maybe sometimes, am I being really impulsive, but for the right reasons?
Very impressive thought. And I think uh, you you didn't take time to say yes. You definitely said yes when I reached out. So thank you for graciously accepting this uh, invite to come on this
Most welcome.
conversation today. This has been a fun conversation for me, and I'm sure the listeners would love it.
Awesome. Anis, thank you so much. I really think it's a story for somebody else, but it's your reality. So it's like my reality. So, when people tell me, okay, Firoza, what story do you have for us? I'm like, no, man, it might be a story for you. It's not a
Yes,
story for me. It was my
correct.
reality. Or so I really feel that's the purpose of this podcast.
Yes,
You are decoding people's maybe current realities and understanding where their past came from.
yes.
So thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thanks a lot, Anis.
No, you're welcome. And it's been a pleasure having this conversation with you.
Yay.
Yay. All right, Firoza. Take care.
Thanks, Anis. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for listening in. And we close yet another episode of Masters Decoded. If you've enjoyed the episode, please, you can help us out by sharing it on social media. I would personally appreciate that. It's how we can reach more listeners, and the more listeners we have, the more awesome guests I can get in touch and convince to participate in these conversations that are a joy to have for me, and I hope they are a joy for you to listen as well. You can also help a lot leaving reviews on iTunes or your podcast service of choice. Reviews are surprisingly helpful in supporting the podcast to get to more listeners. If this episode has intrigued you, I would request you to subscribe to the podcast to stay up to date and get notified to the future episodes. With that, I bid you and see you in the next episode.